The Simpsons. I don't think that there is a single person out there living in Western society that wouldn't know who the family are, or even what they look like. They're the most yellow four-fingered, dysfunctional but entertaining family to watch on television, or was, should I say. With a current lifespan of almost 30 years, it's the longest animated sitcom to be broadcasted and has aired over 639 episodes in its 29 seasons. It's also won a countless number of awards and broken many television records. Quick fact, if you want to watch all of the episodes back to back, it's going to take you 8.5 days. So strap yourself in if you want to do that. With the longevity of the show and the fact that it has been on air for this long, you'd think that the viewers would love it. However, many people who once loved the show have found fulfillment in other ones and have decided to say eat my shorts to The Simpsons and moved on. But why is that? Why has the most loved family in America turned into the most hated? And all you hear now is people chanting for the show to end. Well, let's find out. Before I go ahead, make sure you go over to my Twitter @brainpilot_ and drop me a follow. So without further ado, I'm Brainpilot, and here is how The Simpsons became the most hated family in America. The Simpsons. The Simpsons are designed to be the perfect portrayal of the working class American family. A family that are not at rock bottom, but always have room for improvement and have goals that they want to achieve. Just like you and I, and many families out there. They were created to be relatable, lovable, comedic, and for us to be able to see ourselves within them, whether that be Homer, Marge, Bart, or Lisa. No matter what your family is like, you will see some form of yourself in The Simpsons. They're a couple with 3 children and 2 pets, a cat and a dog, so they can appeal to everybody. This worked for a while. However, it doesn't seem to be enough to even stay stable anymore. Viewing figures aren't what they used to be, and people are getting fed up. The heydays. Many viewers of The Simpsons refer to the heydays being between Season 1 and Season 9 of the show. The Simpsons were created as a comedic source to replicate the classic US sitcom that was being aired in the late 80s and went on to dominate the television screens in the early 90s. With writers such as Conan O'Brien on board and Disney's Brad Bird, there was surely no reason why the show would not be funny or pull in the ratings. Nobody had really seen anything like The Simpsons before, and there were fresh ideas that were constantly being put out there. The show was ahead of its time, something that not many were back then. Other TV shows were living in the now, whereas The Simpsons was always looking ahead, as you can see when you hear about all of their future predictions that have come true. It wasn't predictable. The only thing that was predictable about the show was the personality of the characters that you learned to grow a connection with, a strong connection. You knew Homer would be a lazy buffoon who couldn't be bothered to go to work and would strangle Bart when he got angry, and then go get a duff at Moe's. But everything else that happened, you weren't aware, and it was a story unfolding in front of your eyes. Although The Simpsons isn't technically chronologically based and is more like an anthology as the stories do not always directly follow each other, you connect with the characters in a personal way, as if you were going on a journey with them. You go on the emotional roller coaster that the family go on, and even the geographical ones where they go on holiday. The development of the characters is what ties into the emotions you feel towards them, and the reason why you tune in every episode. However, this is something that has changed in the more recent years of the show. Off the television. When we as viewers were not watching The Simpsons, we were playing it. In the early 2000s, the more modern video game consoles such as the PlayStation 1 were being introduced into the family home, and The Simpsons saw an opportunity. With games such as Simpsons Wrestling, Simpsons Road Rage, Simpsons Skateboarding, and what people refer to as the best Simpsons game, Simpsons Hit and Run, gracing our consoles, our connection with the show grew stronger. Not only were we able to watch the characters that we grew to love, we were able to control them and drive them around and take them on all of the adventures that the game entailed. With The Simpsons Hit and Run being a less tamed version of the GTA series, many young viewers playing video games at the time were excited to be able to explore Springfield in first person. However, after those 4 games were released, The Simpsons game came out in 2007 and was followed by The Simpsons Tapped Out, 2 games that did not compare to any of the early releases and felt like lazy attempts. It felt as though they were just out to make money out of the consumers and the fans that have helped the show get to where it was. The laziness. Matt Groening was creating 2 shows that were both proving to be hugely successful and dominated the television. You had The Simpsons on one hand and Futurama on the other. Both shows had similar styles of humor and similar styles of animation, so there was nothing to not like about the other. However, once Futurama had ended, everybody expected The Simpsons to go back to where it used to be, as Groening's attention would be left solely with The Simpsons. But this was not the case. Matt Groening seems to be jetting off with Netflix and creating new shows, and who knows what he's thinking. Does he feel it's time for The Simpsons to end? More people are crying out for the show to end and would happily have Futurama take its place. The jokes that once made up a huge portion of the show and the humor that everybody used to laugh out loud to has dried up and not returned. The jokes aren't there, the character development isn't there, and what everybody used to love about the show just is not there. Laziness in the writing, humor, and stories is clear to see. The rise of animated TV shows. Back in 1989, there were animated shows that were designed for kids to watch, but there wasn't anything that was targeted towards children and adults that would make a nice family watch. This is cartoons that consisted of jokes that parents would enjoy and the kids would be none the wiser. They'd just laugh anyway. However, most likely, due to the popularity of the show, many different types of animated television shows started to air with that specific target audience in mind. Take the 1990s, for example. You had The Critic in '94, King of the Hill in '97, South Park in '97, and Family Guy in '99. The show that is most similar to The Simpsons is Family Guy, with its middle-class American family humor and relatability, although its target audience is slightly different due to its style of comedy. Since then, even Family Guy has faced the same criticism as what The Simpsons has, for the exact same reasons. It's not moving with the times well, and it's just not as funny as what it used to be. The introduction of these shows forced The Simpsons writers to be more competitive and creative to allow them to stay on top. This worked for a while, but it just doesn't work today. There are so many animated shows that are on several different television networks and streaming platforms, and it seems as though The Simpsons just can't compete anymore. It's an oversaturated market where even people that are sat in their bedrooms can create animation that can compete with some of the greatest. The industry has changed, but The Simpsons has not. Final thoughts. With the show being criticized constantly and there being articles released daily about how the show should finish, why would even the creator want to stay with it anymore? One of the most recent stories regarding the problem of the poo and the lack of diversity in the writing team has blown the show up even more in the public eye, and the response that the creator gave didn't necessarily go down well with the audience. The Simpsons is a show that peaked in its first 10 years and should have stopped then. There has been the occasional episode that has stood out and entertained its viewers like it used to, but 9 times out of 10, the show fails to do so. There is a second Simpsons movie that has been announced to be coming to theaters eventually, but is it too late for that? Is it an attempt to save a show that is falling deeper and deeper into the pit? It won't go down without a fight, and it clearly hasn't done, as it has lasted 20 years longer than it should have. I loved The Simpsons whilst I was growing up, but as I've got older, I've learned to see that it hasn't moved well with the times. It can't grasp what family life or even society is like in 2018, and I don't think it will be able to recover. What was once the most loved family in America has become the most hated, and people are wanting the show to end sooner rather than later. When The Simpsons does finally get put to rest, I believe the show will be remembered for what it used to be. It won't be remembered for the unfunny, logicless pile of junk TV that it's become, but it will be remembered as the record-breaking, revolutionary animated show that people watched, laughed, cried, and enjoyed, but it just lasted too long and was outgrown by the majority of its audience. What do you think of The Simpsons? Are you still sticking by it? Do you think the show should finish? Let me know. Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.